For years, Donald Trump has insisted that every question about his connection to Jeffrey Epstein is nothing more than political noise. But the more documents that surface, the harder it becomes to believe that. Because the most damaging revelations aren't coming from investigators, reporters, or even Congress. They're coming from a place Trump cannot control, the Epstein estate itself. And the latest discovery is different from anything seen so far. It doesn't just mention Trump's name. It doesn't just place him in Epstein's orbit. It reaches directly into Trump's personal life, into his marriage, and exposes a secret that could shake the foundation of his entire public persona. To understand how we got here, you have to step back and see the bigger picture. Transparency has been the battle cry surrounding the Epstein files. Politicians demand it, survivors demand it, the public demands it. But the truth is that the most revealing material hasn't come from the Department of Justice at all. The DOJ is still sitting on tens of thousands of unreleased documents. And Trump repeatedly claims that whatever has been shown already proves he has nothing to hide. The problem? The most explosive information didn't come from those official files. It came from 23,000 private emails released by the Epstein estate, messages no one ever expected or planned to make public. Researchers went through every line, cataloged every name, and built a fully searchable archive. And one thing became impossible to ignore. Out of every powerful figure mentioned, Donald Trump's name appears more than anyone else. Not once, not twice, not occasionally, constantly. News outlets even created visual timelines showing who appeared in the emails most frequently. Clinton showed up, Larry Summers showed up, but the cluster for Trump towered over all of them. And that's only from the fraction we've seen. Estimates suggest the DOJ still holds around 100,000 additional records that the public has never been allowed to view. Which means the stories surfacing now aren't happening by accident. They're happening because the documents won't stop revealing more. And these documents are coming from a source Trump cannot dismiss as fake news or political enemies. They're coming from Epstein's own communications, preserved and released by his estate. And inside those emails, one particular message stands out. A message hinting at something deeper, something personal, something dangerously close to Trump's family. The email suggests that Epstein wasn't just familiar with Trump's public life. He claimed to know intimate details about Trump and Melania's relationship, details that stretched back before their marriage and even before their rise into the political spotlight. According to the uncovered correspondence, Epstein had once bragged that he had a romantic history with Melania before Trump ever entered the picture. The allegation was so bold it appeared in a published book until Trump allegedly demanded the publisher remove it, even after tens of thousands of copies had already been printed. But the story didn't disappear. It lived inside Epstein's private emails, and now the entire world can read it. The emails reveal even more. Epstein claimed he was present during Trump and Melania's early interactions, describing moments that supposedly happened on his plane. He wrote about their dynamic, their disagreements, their distance, details intimate enough to raise the question no one ever thought to ask. How close was Epstein to Trump's marriage? And why did he know so much? The revelations didn't end there, because within the same batch of messages, another explosive detail appears. An allegation that Trump had boasted about an affair with one of his top staffers. A rumor passed between Michael Wolff and Steve Bannon before making its way directly to Epstein's inbox. The staffer denies it. Wolff's reliability is shaky. Bannon's motivations are unpredictable. But the fact remains. Why were Trump insiders discussing it at all? And why was Epstein receiving those discussions? This wasn't tabloid chatter. This wasn't a social rumor. It was a chain of communication running from inside Trump's political circle straight into the hands of a man accused of one of the most disturbing criminal operations in recent history. And none of it, not one sentence, came from the government's official files. It all came from the estate's private records, the only entity so far that has complied fully with subpoenas from Congress. This is why the fight for transparency matters. Because the estate emails are exposing stories the White House never prepared for, stories Trump cannot rewrite, stories no one expected to see, including the one about his marriage. And this is just the beginning. The second wave of estate emails didn't just reference Trump casually, they revealed a pattern of familiarity, access, and information sharing that doesn't look accidental and doesn't fit the image Trump has tried to project for years. These weren't random mentions. These were people in Trump's orbit talking about Trump's personal life, and somehow those conversations kept finding their way back to Epstein. One name that appears in the middle of this web is Gwendolyn Beck, an associate linked to Epstein's social circle. One email chain describes how she traveled with Epstein to his private island, the same island that has become symbolic of everything horrific in this entire saga. That part alone isn't new. What is new is the way Melania's name appears in the surrounding conversations. Melania isn't mentioned as a stranger or as a distant public figure. She is described as someone Epstein had known personally, very personally. In the messages, Epstein refers to his alleged past involvement with her as if it were a well-known fact within certain circles. He speaks about Trump's anger over the story being printed in a book. He talks about a demand to erase the claim from publication, not before release, but after tens of thousands of copies were already in the public's hands. It wasn't the kind of comment someone invents. It was phrased the way someone talks about something they've discussed many times before. And the timing of these emails matters. They weren't written retrospectively. They weren't drafted years later by people looking for attention. These were communications from the era when Trump and Melania were still building their public life, long before Trump entered politics. It means Epstein was close enough to watch their relationship unfold in real time. The emails even include Epstein bragging that Trump and Melania first connected on his plane, a claim that reinforces just how deeply intertwined these early interactions might have been. And if that's true, then Epstein didn't just witness the beginning of their relationship, he potentially hosted it. That's not the kind of detail you erase with a press statement. But as shocking as that is, the most volatile allegation in this bundle is the one involving Trump and his former aide, Madeleine Westerhout. Unlike other rumors that have floated around for years, this one didn't surface from tabloids or social media. It appeared inside a private exchange between Michael Wolff and Steve Bannon, two men with direct knowledge of the inner workings of Trump's operations. According to the emails, Trump had allegedly boasted about being intimate with Westerhout, a claim she strongly denies. Wolff's reputation is checkered, Bannon's loyalty shifts like sand. But the real question isn't whether the rumor is true. The real question is, why was this information being passed around by Trump's inner circle? And why did it end up in Epstein's inbox? Think about how strange that is. Wolff isn't a gossip blogger. Bannon isn't a random commentator. These are individuals who sat in Trump's orbit, people who were in the room, people who had access to conversations, to staff, to personal dynamics. So why were they discussing Trump's alleged affair? Why were they treating it as serious enough to document? Why did it matter to them? And most importantly, why did Epstein receive it? There are only a few possibilities, and none of them are good. Either Epstein was being treated as a confidant, or as an informant, or as someone whose knowledge of Trump's private life was already so deep that sharing this rumor with him felt natural. No possibility looks innocent. And throughout all of this, the same pattern keeps emerging. The most revealing information isn't coming from the DOJ, not from the official Epstein files Trump keeps referencing, not from any investigation he claims proves his innocence. It's coming from the estate, the one entity with no political motive, no loyalty to Trump, and no reason to hide anything. According to members of Congress, the estate is the only group that has fully complied with subpoenas. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice continues to withhold tens of thousands of documents, citing legal limitations, investigations, and procedural delays. But the estate's releases have already outpaced everything from the government. And the content of these emails makes one thing painfully clear. Epstein didn't just know Trump socially. He didn't just know Trump politically. He knew Trump privately. His relationships, his habits, his behavior, even rumors Trump insiders were passing among themselves. That level of access doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen casually. It doesn't happen when someone is barely an acquaintance, as Trump has repeatedly claimed. These emails reveal something else too, something Congress has been shouting for months. The narrative coming from the White House and the DOJ is incomplete. Some of the people investigating this matter have openly said that the administration is trying to limit disclosure. Others have suggested that subpoenas were delayed on purpose. And over, lawmakers point back to a simple fact. If the truth was harmless, it wouldn't be this hard to obtain. The estate seems to be the only party willing to hand over the full, unfiltered story, and their documents continue to complicate everything Trump has said publicly. And we haven't even reached the financial side yet. That comes next. If the personal allegations were the sparks, the financial details buried in these emails are the wildfire. Because as Congress reviewed the newest documents from the Epstein estate, one message became impossible to ignore. Epstein wasn't just connected to Trump socially or personally. He had insight into Trump's financial world as well. And that is where the real battle for information begins. Members of Congress have repeatedly raised a disturbing point. Almost everything the public knows about Epstein's network in recent months has come not from the Department of Justice, but from the estate, the only entity obeying subpoenas. And that is exactly what terrifies people in power. You can hear the frustration in the voices of lawmakers who have been trying to pry documents out of the DOJ and the Treasury Department. Subpoenas were ignored. Hearings were delayed. Votes were postponed. Every excuse imaginable was used to slow the release of records the survivors, the public, and even bipartisan members of Congress wanted to see. One congresswoman described it bluntly. This wasn't bureaucracy, this was avoidance. She pointed out how the House Speaker delayed bringing members in for votes, how signatures had to be gathered one by one to force a discharge petition, how a bill with near unanimous support was stalled for no clear reason. And the question she kept repeating was the one no administration ever wants to answer. If there's nothing to hide, why fight so hard to keep the truth locked away? Even when Congress finally pushed the House to act, the next roadblock appeared in the Senate. Would they pass the bill? Would the president sign it? Would the DOJ comply once the law forced disclosure? No one could give a simple yes. Because every agency involved has something in their possession, documents, financial reports, suspicious activity filings that could expose how deep Epstein's network went and who benefited from it. A senator revealed that the Treasury Department holds a long list of Epstein's related financial records, wire transfers, foreign transactions, suspicious activity alerts, shell companies, corporate structures, some domestic, some international. And all of it traces the money that allowed Epstein's operation to run for so many years without real scrutiny. Those records matter because Epstein didn't operate alone. Someone funded it, someone moved money for it, someone helped structure it, and someone looked the other way. Investigators say Epstein had layers of fake companies, fake modeling agencies, arranged marriages used for immigration shortcuts, shell corporations scattered across multiple countries, and cases where young women were flown internationally using paperwork that didn't go through proper channels. This wasn't casual corruption. This was infrastructure, deliberate, protected, and extremely expensive. And the disturbing part is that several members of Congress now believe the financial side may be even more explosive than the personal scandals. Because money leaves trails, transactions leave timestamps, bank filings show names, and many of those names, according to lawmakers, are still being withheld. Yet through all this resistance, one entity stayed open, the Epstein estate. Their releases, especially the emails, are what led to the revelations about Trump's alleged bragging, Melania's supposed connection to Epstein, the rumored staffer affair, and the unsettling level of access Epstein had to Trump's personal life. And when pressed about why the DOJ still refuses to release everything in full, lawmakers pointed directly to the Trump administration's influence over agencies. They specifically mentioned that certain officials appeared to be protecting the president instead of the public. One congresswoman said, "Pam Bondi doesn't work for the American people, she works for Donald Trump." She went further, explaining that the only reason anyone has new information is because the estate complied with their subpoena. The Department of Justice did not. The Treasury Department did not. Multiple agencies with legally required oversight responsibilities simply held their ground. Which brings us to the bottom line, the point every whistleblower, survivor, journalist, and lawmaker keeps circling back to. The narrative around Epstein is being shaped, rewritten, and controlled, but only by the people who fear the truth. Trump's sudden shift in tone, according to Congress, wasn't a coincidence. The moment he realized the House had enough votes to override any veto, he changed his messaging. He went from opposing transparency to pretending to support it. But behind that political choreography sits a simple reality. Once the law becomes veto-proof, the White House loses control of the narrative. And that's what the people in power fear the most. Not the headlines, not the speculation, not the rumors, but the documents. The emails, the money trails, the financial records, the logs, the files that can't be edited, spun, or denied. That's why transparency has become the battleground. Because as long as only the estate releases see the light of day, we are only seeing fragments. And those fragments, even on their own, have already shaken some of the most powerful people in the country. This story isn't ending. It's widening, getting louder, revealing more. And the message from Congress is clear. We cannot let Donald Trump or anyone else control this narrative. The truth is coming out with or without their permission. And the people trying the hardest to bury it are the ones the world is now watching the closest.